Into our congressional candidate forum, of course. Again, in organizing this forum, we reached out to all of the candidates. We're joined here by former delegate Robert Underwood, running on the Democrat side. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning. Good morning. Hafa buenos dias. How are you doing?
We're doing good. And we've also got on the Republican side, Republican candidate for congressional delegate, Senator Will Castro. Good morning, Senator.
Hey, good morning to both of you and to Dr. Underwood. It's my privilege to share the floor with you. Happy day to your listenership. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Of course. You know, we had, again, extended the invite to the incumbent delegate, Congressman Michael Nicholas, who's actually on Guam right now. I did my part, guys, because we really wanted to get him on to make this a forum where we hear all the voices. I sent Facebook messages, I sent emails, I sent WhatsApp messages. However, we didn't get a response or a confirmation, so we're just gonna have to go with it, guys. And we'll just jump right into it. Bree, the format.
You have 2-minute intro, 2-minute responses to the questions, and 2-minute close.
And so we'll just get right into it with our 2-minute opening statement, and we'll go ahead and start with Senator Will Castro. Your 2-minute opening statement to the people of Guam starts now.
Well, thank you very much to those on the link, and it's a privilege to be here with someone who I respect. Dr. Underwood, thank you for sharing the floor with me. My dear people of Guam, to those of you who have voted, thank you. Thank you so very much. And for those of you who have yet to vote, the hour is almost upon us where we get to select Guam's representative to the United States Congress. Hopefully this forum will provide an extra opportunity for us to share our plans, and perhaps we can even get into each other's records as policymakers, as professionals in our own right, and as leaders within this awesome community of ours. But if there's one thing I learned throughout the journey these last 10 months, it comes down to this. The people of Guam, you're voting for the person. You're going to vote for someone who has the character, someone who has the right condition of the heart to serve, someone who's committed to stay with it through these times, both good and bad. And yes, each of us candidates has a plan, or our own recipe for success, if you will. But at the end of the day, I think you just need to ask yourself, do you believe this person? Have they demonstrated the leadership traits that they claim to have? And I just want to share that I've been active in this community. I was engaged. I remain engaged. I was in Alahan yesterday. I'll be in Jigo tomorrow, so that I can listen to what it is you have to share, informing the Guam message. I continue to work well with those in the community, to include the speaker and the governor and my Republican colleagues. And this also includes the Democrat challengers. I have great rapport with former Congressman Underwood, and we have some communication with Delegate Nicholas. I appreciate that. My name's Will Castro, and there's one thing I want to leave with you. It's one thing hasn't changed. I'm the same person, whether I was a director, a cabinet official, or a member of the Young Men's League of Guam, or a teacher. And so I want to encourage you to vote for someone who's good for their word, who's in love with our island.
Thank you, Senator.
It's evident in everything they do. So I humbly ask for your vote. A vote for a new
Time's
direction
up.
forward. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Right. Former Delegate Underwood, 2 minutes to address the audience. Start.
Good morning to all of you, my dear people of Guam. The delegate's office in Washington, D.C. is a 2-year contract. Nobody has a right to it. They have to earn it. And we only have one voice in Washington, D.C. And for us, ladies and gentlemen, for the people of Guam, that voice must be trustworthy. That voice must be respected in Washington and respected here in order for us to carry out a full agenda for all of the problems and issues that we have connected to federal relationships with our island. I base my campaign on trustworthiness. And I've said over and over that honesty and integrity are not optional. They are required in order for you to understand how you are served. One voice, ladies and gentlemen, one voice. So I present myself as that voice. I've had experience in Washington, D.C. I've had experience as an educator. I've had experience as a community activist. And I'm presenting myself in order to provide that, put in service that experience on our behalf, to deal with all of the pressing issues: jobs, 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 the economy, healthcare, education, making sure that we're dealing with the 21st century challenges in a way that is reflective of us. I have trust and unity. I believe that by working with you, working with all sectors of the Guam community, working with the elected leadership in Guam, that a collaborative team approach, but fighting for you in Washington, D.C. is the best route. So I have always followed this. I firmly believe that if you look at the records and if you look at the platform, and I have presented a very detailed platform, all of it is doable.
Thank you, Robert.
It touches veterans, it touches Manamco, and it
Thank you.
touches all of us, ladies. and
Time's
gentlemen.
up.
I appreciate it. I humbly ask for your vote.
Thank you.
Sabrina, next question.
Next question.
Or first question.
According to an October 7th report issued by the Congressional Research Service on the freely associated states and issues for Congress, it states that Hawaii, Guam, and the CNMI reported a total of $3.2 billion in estimated compact impact costs during 2004 to 2018 in the areas of education, social services, while they received approximately $509 million in compact impact related compensation during 2004 to 2019. Officials from Guam and Hawaii have cited compact migrants' limited eligibility for a number of federal programs, particularly Medicaid, as a major reason for costs borne by the affected jurisdictions. What are your plans to address the problems with compact impact and reimbursements to Guam? Starting with you, Senator Castro.
Well, Hafide, thank you for bringing the question up. The concerns surrounding compact impact is a perennial concern of the territory. I think if you look at the records for the last, it doesn't matter which year you pick up, cumulatively, it's about $1 billion, $100 million a year. I think the approach for any delegate to the United States House should be to advocate for inclusion of Guam in that discussion. I think we should advocate and push for proper compensation and recompense for those types of services that are a shock to our infrastructure. We can see, I can agree with you that perhaps the Medicaid issue is a big concern, but it's not the only one. There are areas in terms of public safety and education that are facing this community. There are underserved, underinsured, and non-insured migrants, and we want to ensure that they're included in any type of federal provisions that will afford them the opportunity to grow and prosper in this community. I think they're getting a bad rap. And I think the buck ends with the United States Congress, and that's the role that the advocate should play, the Guam representative to the House. That's essentially my position on that. I can go into detail about the numerical expression, anywhere from 18 to 25 million at the Guam Memorial Hospital, but it really won't solve anything other than the fact that we're not at the table. I think it's incumbent. It's a not just our fiscal responsibility, but almost a moral one to be at the table to ensure that they get their fair share of federal monies that come into the Guam economy and anywhere else they may freely travel within the United States of America.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congressman Underwood.
Compact impact aid is, of course, you've outlined the exact problem, and here's a good solution. Of course, an opportunity was presented in the past Congress, in the current Congress, to put in an amendment in the state authorization bill to include Guam in some participatory role in the negotiations with the freely associated states. That didn't happen. That was a failure on the part of our representative. And secondly, I have committed that when the compact agreements come up for consideration in the Congress, that I will spare no effort to make sure that those compact agreements are not approved until there's a clear route to go with compact impact aid. And that clear route includes at least $100 million a year. And that clear route includes the enforcement of immigration provisions by the Department of Homeland Security to make sure that we don't get the back and forth of people that are probably maybe running away from different issues in our region. And lastly, we must solve that Medicaid problem. And that Medicaid problem, make sure that they are the compact citizens, the FAS citizens, are not only eligible for Medicaid here, but are eligible for Medicaid in their home areas. And if they are, then we won't have the kind of stresses that we feel here when they come here, primarily to Guam, just to seek medical services and then take advantage of our medically indigent program. And then, of course, the Medicaid funding simply dissipates and it's not strengthened. So those are real concrete solutions. They could have happened. It didn't happen in the past Congress, but with your support, I'm going to make sure it happens.
Thank you, Robert.
Next Congress.
Next question. Much has been made about Congressman San Nicolas's attendance with Congress, with congressional records showing that he has the second poorest attendance in all of the House. But he's defended this record by saying that instead of going to vote on bills or attending the session, he was attending important meetings at his office and other places. So if elected, do you guys believe that attendance and voting is a key part of representing us in Congress? If so, or if not, please explain why. You have 2 minutes to respond, and we'll go ahead and start with Senator Will Castro.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the answer is absolutely yes, emphatically yes. If there's one thing you need to do, and I can't, but if there's one thing that's required of my office, it's to show up on the vote. I think that's the penultimate responsibility of the representative, especially if you're the only one. I can't understand why one wouldn't attend those important hearings and or actions on the floor, but I can tell you from personal experience or professional experience, as one of 15 senators, there's no way I can attempt to represent you if I don't understand what the concerns are before you. And I don't intend to pick that up on a policy analysis document. I get out there and I have real conversations with you. As a matter of fact, things that extend way beyond something like the privilege to serve you. I intend to continue my mobile office opportunities. So the answer is yes. I don't understand how anyone in any capacity can put forward to want to represent you if they don't understand you. And to understand someone is to be an active listener, to be present. You have to show up to put out, in my humble opinion. In addition to that, even if it was a foregone conclusion on the fate of the bill, which oftentimes it is, if it's negotiated on either side of the aisle, advocacy plays a key role in sustaining and maintaining momentum. Advocacy, because it's entered into the public record. You know, it's one thing not to show up, but it's another thing not even to have input on a matter that's salient to the territory and all of the Marianas, to be exact. Going back to use compact as a legitimate example, there are things that are in motion. The United States government has weighed in through the GAO on the need for a uniform reporting policy. I haven't heard about that from the current delegate. And maybe it's not a top priority, but you have to be present to be engaged. And Zoom doesn't cut it for me. Somebody asked me early in the campaign, Senator, this is in June, if you could do one thing different than the incumbent, what would you do? And my short answer was not related to my platform. It's related to my leadership style. One thing I would do different is—
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Reminding you guys have 2 minutes to respond to the questions. I'm minding the time, and we will cut you when the time is up. That being said, no problem. Congressman, 2 minutes to respond starting now.
Okay. Well, obviously, paying attention to your work is obviously a requirement no matter where you work. And the current delegate has missed 52% of the votes. And when you do an analysis of what those votes were, there were votes on improving prescription drugs for senior citizens, 6 votes on veterans, votes on youth policy, votes on foreign policy issues. There were a number of votes where when you're called, when Guam is called, 52% of the time, Guam didn't answer. Of course, most of those votes are we already know how they're going to turn out, but all of those voters show up anyways because they understand that representing their constituency is the most important thing they have. In addition to that, the delegate has missed 30% of committee votes. I don't know what kind of strategy is being pursued in that, but I take pride in the fact that wherever you vote, and when you vote in committee, your vote counts fully. If you vote on the House floor, you vote on amendments, and then that's where you provide evidence of where the people of Guam stands and where your heart is. And ladies and gentlemen, when you're on the floor voting and you're interacting, you're advocating, you're presenting your point of view, you're telling the Guam story, you're telling your fellow members of Congress what Guam is all about and where Guam stands. Being absent in that is not just missing a vote, it's missing opportunities to represent you and opportunities to present our point of view on a wide variety of issues. National leadership requires national attention.
Thank you,
and
Robert.
It requires a delegate that pays attention.
Thank you. Sabrina?
Yeah. The federal ban on cockfighting, recently we had a local proponent of cockfighting on our show. He felt that this was just the beginning of more federal restrictions that would be handed down or that could be handed down on Guam without the people of Guam truly having any sort of voice. He felt that it was going to be further erosion of our constitutional rights. What is your position on the federal ban on cockfighting that includes Guam? Do you plan on fighting it or anything? Congressman Underwood?
Well, thank you for that opportunity. And I've met with a number of people who are involved in cockfighting. And of course, in Guam, it's always curious that your cockfighting is the basis for understanding who you support politically. So Hajigazumu, who's your rooster? And if we end cockfighting, we're going to end that unique feature of Guam politics. But of course, I am going to fight for a way to make sure that cockfighting continues legally and safely. The Northern Marianas has a unique provision which allows them to sort of dodge the issue by saying that it's a longstanding cultural practice and that under their covenant, their cultural practices will continue from before. For us, it's the same cultural practice. I don't understand why, if they're going to allow it in the Northern Marianas, they wouldn't allow it here in Guam. So I understand that this is a matter of great controversy and great concern to a number of people, but this is also a matter of cultural continuity. It's also a matter of how we see ourselves and what elements of local authority do we continue to try to secure, especially in activities that are related to our cultural practices from past centuries. Puerto Rico has basically in the same situation, and they've already passed that bill. And the Northern Marianas is relying on this provision in their covenant. And if I am fortunate enough to represent you in Congress, I'm going to hitch my wagon to the Northern Marianas and try to figure out a way that moral cultural practices that are there and here are sustained and maintained into the future.
Thank you. Senator Castro.
Today, I don't want to get into the efficacy of cultural practices, but I want to start and end with this to be consistent. It's been consistent on my platform that I think it's definitely tied to greater states' rights and the opportunity to decide for ourselves what's best for Guam. It's right. I'm not a proponent of horse racing in some parts of the contiguous U.S. like Kentucky. I'm not a big advocate, nor am I against game fishing either. But the point would be this, that I also stand on the same side as Mr. Underwood here, that if given the privilege, I would advocate for greater states' rights. Put it before the people. And to draw some contrast, I can tell you this, that the incumbent has punted, has deferred to the Congress to assert itself over many of the policies that affect the territory. And that's an erosion of our ability to demonstrate self-governance. I stand on the side of the state, in this case, the people of Guam, and let us choose. I have nothing against game fighting and cockfighting. As a matter of fact, I would probably yield that it's been in our traditions for a long time. But in principle, it's a state right. And that's where I would hitch my wagon, Mr. Underwood. I would hitch it on the side that we can decide for ourselves what's best for Guam. The CNMI was the better foot forward in blazing that trail. By all means, in all humility, we'll follow that lead. But it's our role, any representative from Guam, to stand forward and advocate for what we believe to be in the best interest of the territory. And in this case, definitely yielded a sacrifice on the principle of greater self-governance, which I abhor. I reject that principle. Thank you.
Thank you. You want me to ask? You got it.
It's up to you.
Okay, well, we received this release from the Commission on Decolonization a couple of days ago, responding to a statement made by President Trump. It states that in a phone interview on October 1st with Sean Hannity, President Donald Trump expressed his opposition to granting statehood to U.S. territories like Guam, Puerto Rico, and the District of Columbia. In the interview, the president expressed that if these places became states, it would lead to an awkward number of stars on the U.S. flag. Trump asked and ended with, "So it's a very, very sad thing for our country. Very, very sad thing." What is your reaction to that, Congressman Underwood?
Well, it's a very sad thing that the president said that. And it's also sad that you just make a comment about whether you want to admit an entity as a state based on how awkward it's going to look on the flag. That seems to be a pretty shallow way of looking at it. But of course, whatever President Trump says, if you give him enough time, he might change his mind. So while I am concerned about it, it is a matter of greater national policy to pursue. We're in the midst of an issue of self-determination, and if in the exercise of self-determination, a statehood is that option that is preferred by the people, then of course we will support it. And I will support that because that's the whole point of self-determination. It is a difficult task. It is clear to understand that just simply advocating for statehood is not going to make it happen. But as always, there is a federal responsibility to this. So in my role as your representative at the federal level, I will spare no effort in making sure that our efforts here are supported and our efforts here are funded appropriately. It's always interesting. The nature of the political relationship with the federal government is controlled by the federal government here. And then when we're trying to change it, they're always saying, "Oh, you're kind of coming up short, try again, go over here." And they're constantly moving the goalposts. So I hope that with some clarity and with this kind of energy, that there will be a federal commission that will review the possibilities of statehood and other political statuses for all of the territories and help resolve the issue for the District of Columbia.
Thank you, Robert.
All. And I will be a participant.
Senator Castro, 2 minutes.
Well, I can't speak for the President of the United States, and I certainly can't speak for the polity when it comes to political status. But what I can tell you is my principal position based on where I stand. The right to tomorrow political self-determination, in my humble opinion, is a human right. It predates the United States. It goes back before the UN. It just goes so far back in terms of even what you decide to do for yourself. I will say for the record, though, that the 2016 Republican platform was very clear in supporting all territories in their right to political self-determination. So with that said, if we didn't have the opportunity to choose, then we'd be in the same situation. And that applies to the United States. For me personally, I know one of my candidates here just alluded to a potential direction if we decided as a territory. I'm a statehooder, but I would be at the doorstep of the White House. I'd be speaking with people. I've communicated with the local Republican Party on the need to address this issue. And I'm sure I stand with them and they stand with me, that we stand firmly, unequivocally, and unmoved on the right to moral political self-determination.
Thank you. Why would you be a better choice and a better voice for the people of Guam over your opponents? And we'll start with you, Senator Castro.
Oh, wow. Well, let me mind my place. In the presence of the former congressman, I don't know if I would be better. I know that I offer an alternative to the people of Guam in terms of leadership style and overall policy direction. I'd like to build upon the accomplishments of the former congressman, and I'd like to learn from the present challenges of the incumbent. What I can offer the people is the fact that I'm active and engaged, that you can judge me based on what I've done and where I stood, on what I've said and the bills that I've introduced. That will be consistent. So if that's better in your mind when you're passing judgment upon me in the voting booth, then so be it. But I assure you, given the privilege to serve in the United States House of Representatives, that I'll be active. I'll put these boots on the ground. I'll knock on those doors, as I've demonstrated at great personal expense. And so I can only put forward that I want to do the same with the same zeal. And I want to build upon the Guam story. But maybe that's where I contrast with my predecessor, that I want to write a new chapter to a glorious future for the people of Guam, having learned from him and others like him. That doesn't make me better. It makes me hungry for change. And with all due respect, I meant no disrespect. Thank you, Congressman.
Congressman Underwood?
No disrespect is intended, I'm sure. But this is more than a matter of style. This is a matter of values. This is a matter of honesty and integrity and the way you represent the people of the island, to make sure that whatever you're doing brings honor to the island, that you don't become an embarrassment to the island by having stories told about you in the national media. This is what we have at stake, ladies and gentlemen. So it's more than just style and being able to put together some words and look energetic. This is about substance. This is about clarity. This is about values. So ladies and gentlemen, you have to assess for yourself which of these candidates has the experience to carry out what they say they're doing. Which of these candidates have the values that reflect us as a people? And which one of us communicates with you, not just communicates in forums like this, but communicates with you. I'm so proud of the fact that when I served 10 years as delegate before, I had 77 village meetings. My service, it will be transparent as it was before, open to you, to listen to you, to listen to your disagreements, to listen to your pains, to listen to your arguments, because that makes your representation in Washington, D.C. so much stronger. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have to make that choice. And it's the miracle of democracy that every single vote counts. So please assess this, not just in terms of style and not just in terms of putting together a few words, but values, substance, and experience. And I hope that after you assess those things, you will make the choice.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
The relationship between the incumbent delegate and the administration has been strained and almost adversarial at times. Do you think that the island of Guam has lost out on anything that we could have got in our nation's capital because of this relationship? And if elected to the delegate seat, would you do it differently? If so, or if not, please explain why. You have 2 minutes, Senator Will Castro.
Gosh, we don't even need to look just at COVID. I couldn't agree with you more on the issue of Bill 181, the war claims compensation. That was a bipartisan effort on the part of the speaker and myself, much to the chagrin of many people in my party. We just didn't see the clarity, many of my colleagues. But at the end of the day, we were advocating for immediate compensation before another person had passed. This had the stamp of endorsement from the governor, Imagahaga herself. Yet we couldn't muster the support of our only representative to the United States House. If anything, there was overt attempt to side rail that, to derail that. We stood 3 months. We stood down at 90 days, 30 days, 60, 90 days. 6 months almost went by and people died along the way. That's a perfect example of the disconnection between what the people want and what the sole representative to the Congress represents. And so I'll be crystal clear in this, but I get a little worked up. That was an important example. Not just COVID. COVID's another example. We can get into that. I just don't have enough time. But that's a perfect example of how I will yield to the territory in terms of what we believe to be in the best interest of the people of Guam. That was the one thing that stood out for Nongi Fast. And I don't know what else I could say in 15 seconds other than that. Yeah, we need to fix it.
Well, you still have 40 seconds.
Okay. Sorry, my timers may be excited. Well, I think regardless of who's a representative, Republican candidate or the Democrat challenger right here, Dr. Underwood, I believe we agree on one thing, many things, and this is one of them. You're the only voice to the Congress. I'm sure he would knock on the White House door, as I would. I would go to the ruling majority committee chair, whether it's Veterans Affairs, to advocate for certain things that are in the best interest of the territory and the region. You have to consult the chief executive and the speaker and the mayors and the people. How else are you going to move this island forward? Now, with respect to COVID, we may differ starkly on some principal issues that are more partisan related, like I believe less money into
Thank you, Senator.
Businesses.
Thank you,
Okay,
Senator.
we'll do a better job on our timing.
Right on. Congressman Underwood, 2 minutes starts now.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I've already pointed to this sign back here that says trust and unity. You can't generate trust in your leadership if you're not attempting to be unified with your fellow leaders and with the general community of Guam. I've stated this before in front of the legislature in my previous speeches, that the sole purpose of the delegate should be to move the locus of control from Washington, D.C. to Hagatna, to empower Guam more. The current delegate not only struggles with elected leaders, he's trying to pass legislation in Washington, D.C. that will restrict the government of Guam in its authority. So some examples of that legislation which I passed was allowing the change of to an elected attorney general, allowing the definition of a quorum to be changed because of the changing numbers of the Guam legislature. These are things that I did in changing the tax structure in order to find equity for Guam and in foreign investment taxes, which are assessed in the U.S. These are things that are designed to empower us. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you have a delegate who spends more time trying to triangulate how they differ from elected leaders rather than how they are the same, you're going to get division, you're going to get divisiveness, and you're going to have an incoherent policy in Washington, D.C. That's the sum product of that. That's the end result of that. So it's not just, is the delegate just charting their own course? It's the fact that policy matters that matter to you suffer. When the delegate fails, to act in a unified manner with the people of Guam, when the delegate fails to uphold those values,
thank you, Robert.
We all suffer.
Thank you. It's now time for your 2-minute closing statement, and we'll go ahead and go with you, Senator Will Castro. Your 2-minute closing statement to the people of Guam starts now.
Thank you. Once again, I want to thank you, the folks at the link, KUAM, Dr. Underwood, for sharing the floor with me and for the opportunity to reintroduce myself and share my thoughts in this forum. As I said at the beginning, I'll say it now at the end, that it comes down to the medium and not the message. The message belongs ultimately to the people of Guam. We are the ones who craft it. Our community should elect someone who's capable of forging a new way forward with as many of us at the table. A new way forward for Guam in terms of federal territorial relations and with the end goal in mind. And this is done by examining the candidate, the person. In this case, we are the messengers. And so I want to close by thanking once again the Democrat challenger here for being polite and sharing his thoughts on a number of issues here. And to the people of Guam and to my family and to my supporters, my energetic volunteers for being with me on this journey. I want to be your delegate in the nation's capital who respects the Guam story, who respects history, who's learning from the shortcomings of the present, and to take those lessons from both the past and the present to write a new chapter for the people of Guam, one of recovery and long-term prosperity. Sana Masi. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congressman Underwood, you have 2 minutes to respond, unless you want Senator Castro's.
Hey,
He had 30 seconds
Thank
left.
you very much. And I also thank the senator for being with me on this forum. And it's, of course, a great disappointment that the incumbent is not here in order to be able to, for the voters and the listeners and the watchers to make compare and contrast. Really is sad. Really is sad that We continue to engage in forums in which the incumbent is absent, and for whatever reason that may be. But here I am, and here is Senator Castro. I'm presenting to you, ladies and gentlemen, a clear path forward, a detailed agenda, a detailed platform. You can go to my website and read it all. And these platforms were based on conversations with you, conversations with real people. We had conversations with small business owners, with medical professionals, with educators. It reached out to people. That's the way that you should conduct and develop policy. Not just write it up on Facebook and hope people salute it, but to engage in people. It's engaged partnership with the people of Guam makes a stronger voice for you in Washington, D.C. That is a fundamental understanding of the role of delegate, representing us, not representing himself, representing us. Who are we? Who are we as a people? Are we honest? Do we have integrity? Do we have concerns? Are we paying attention to the veterans? Are we paying attention to the Manamco? Are we making adequate plans for our economy? That's who we are. And are those concerns being represented in Washington, D.C. today? I believe that they're not. I believe that they're not, and that is the reason why I have put myself forward in this campaign. I've told from the very beginning, I said, I'm not running for public office. I'm running for public service.
Thank you, Robert.
Ladies and gentlemen, you make that call. Si Diyos maasi, maraming salamat po.
Senator Castro, thank you for joining us. Congressman Underwood, thank you again for joining us. It's been great talking with you guys. Very insightful.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Adios. Thank you.
All right, give each other a virtual rock. There you go. All right. And I don't know. Or John Kim Poll, what are we doing here?
What was gang sign?
That's the Triton sign. That's the Triton sign.
Gotcha. Right on,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
This is the will.
There's some virtual corned beef fried rice for you guys if you guys want to grab some on your way out for the staff of the supporters.
Are we offline here or?
No, you're still on.
Yeah, you're still.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, let me, I do want to thank all of my supporters and a hardworking volunteer team, and especially my Narissa, who's with me almost every hour of the day, and just it's just a great opportunity to see spirit in the community is alive and well, and that people are hungry for real change.
Senator Castro.
I appreciate the opportunity, Chris. I feel better now that the formal part is over. These 2-minute lightning rounds kind of freak me out, but I appreciate the opportunity to have a dialogue. I agree with you, Dr. Underwood. I wish our challenger was here so we can debate and we can respond to each other.
Yeah.
I'm sure my record would be challenged, and I'm open to that. But other than that, it's been a very spirited campaign. I do thank Dr. Underwood, Dr. Narissa Underwood, for being so kind and encouraging for me too. So be safe out there, Dr. Underwood, and to all the people that want, please come out and vote. Get the numbers up and vote with your mind and your heart.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
See you
Take
guys. 10:02. We're KUAM FM and I got Guam. This is the link on the breeze 93.9. We'll take a short break.